I see text in the chat. It's like, yeah, the music gets you going.
There you go. But to where?
How is everyone doing? So another day. I'm trying out. Hang on. I got the new Pixel Bud Pros to try out. They're working. I can hear you. So let's see how this goes. See if they last the whole hour. I have no idea. So funny. Right, let's get going with the stream. So welcome everyone to Humpday Q&A as usual. My name is Simon Lightfoot, community leader, also CTO at Dev Angels London, and you can follow me on Twitter at Dev Angels London. Scott.
I am Scott Stahl, also community leader, organizer of GDG Cleveland, owner of the Flutter community Slack, and I write some code at Dev Angels London.
All the stuff. And if I introduce Randall, hey Randall, welcome.
Hey, hi, good to be back again. I'll be watching the chat room for our show. And if you want to flag a question for us, be sure to put Q: in front of it, and we will try to get to it as quickly as possible. But I'm a Flutter, Dart, GDE, Google Developer Expert, which means that Google at least paid a little bit of attention to me and said, hey, you should be talking about this more often, and I do. I just released a new video yesterday. Check my stream to get that.
Cool. Well, that was the run up twice thing that we spoke about last week, right?
Yes, indeed. Yes, I finally got that out. And it's already gotten like 200 or 300 views in like the 12 hours it's been out. So that's great.
That's great.
Thank you.
That's great. Let's get on and then we can get the show going. So, Scott, do you want to do the do's and don'ts?
Be nice, be respectful, be constructive. I swear I'm not reading this slide. This is YouTube. It is not Reddit. We have standards. Don't post anything that's adult, rude, offensive. Come on, people. This is common sense. Don't advertise or promote your business. Don't say, I need a job. Don't spam your same question over and over and over and over again. It will be the fastest way to end up at the bottom of the question list because every time you ask it again, we have a list and we'll take it off the list from where it was and put it on the list at the last place you asked it, which means you'll always be last. And also, of course, harassment of any kind, not tolerated. Come on, this is common sense. Misogyny, incels, bigotry, all the stupid stuff. And not only will you be blocked from interacting on the chat, we share ban lists. You'll find that you can suddenly no longer log into the Flutter community Slack. And maybe a few other places like possibly Discord. So you get kicked out of here, your logins don't work anymore.
Behave yourselves. So another week, another hump day, and we're back again to answer your questions. So yeah, as we're saying, as Rand was saying, get the questions in the chat with the queue. We're going to make this. We're trying not to make long shows anymore. So please get your questions in now. Get them loaded up. We can get them answered.
Yeah, we have a hard stop in 55 minutes. So when the hour says 00,
we might putting a queue in front put you in the queue. That's the thing. Yeah. Remember, queue in front means you're put in the queue.
I will say now, Randall, you can say your bit now if you want to, since we're doing a short show. Send it out to your friends, right?
Oh, yes, indeed. So, you all are here. You're getting your questions answered live, but your friends aren't here, and they'll probably enjoy this as well. They can always watch it afterwards. We record all of them and put them in the YouTube channel. So it's not like you don't get the content, but you might as well get the content live, and you might as well get your specific question answered. So please invite your friends. Tell a friend. Everybody go out and tell a friend. This show's running right now.
It's like, isn't it? We used to have we used to tell a friend, just reminded me of, we had this thing called BT Friends and Family, which everyone got, which basically meant you could call your friends and family for cheap back in the 90s.
Yep.
Oh yeah.
When phoning on landlines was a thing. Who knew?
When long distance was a thing. Yes.
Yeah. Right. Like those.
What's long distance? Kids don't know what long distance is anymore.
How about what was it? Captain Crunch and the
whistle.
I can't remember what the time was. the 2600 hertz whistle, right, with the tone. It would open up the long distance carrier line for free.
Yes.
Back in the day.
It was the disconnect signal. So it disconnected you from the remote server and hooked you into the intermediate switching server again, and you could
I think it was,
dial more tones
or something. I can't remember.
Yeah, blue boxes and red boxes and all sorts of things.
That
not that I know anything about that. I'm not supposed to know anything about that kind of stuff anymore.
I know it from just reading stories and hearing about it.
Yeah, it's true.
In fact, Wozniak and Steve Jobs were playing around with those back in their days at university and college and all that.
Yeah.
So
Woz had a bit of everything. Woz had a rotary dial cell phone.
Rotary dials? No.
It was like a desk set, an old Bell 103, and he'd put a cell phone set of chips into it, and it would decode the pulses and dial that number on the cell phone network.
Yeah. So
Woz is crazy.
So basically, they were so old that they have no software. It's all hardware, and therefore people here can't ask any questions about it.
Right.
And we're running a short show.
Yeah. So quickly, that if anyone's interested in what that's all about, look up pulse dialing to DTMF, which is dual tone multi-frequency, which is the system.
Yes.
Anyway, before we jump on, I'm just sort of burning some time here to get your questions in.
Yes,
so there's no questions yet. So get them in where you can. Otherwise, we'll just
You'll be first.
We've got some things to talk about. So I wanted to show this off. I found I saw a tweet just before the show started, which is about this package called Free RASP, RASP standing for Runtime App Self-Protection. So this is made by this company called Talsec, and basically it's a Flutter package that does the detects reverse engineering attempts, anti-tampering, root jail. So basically, see if someone's trying to mess up your day in your app. And it looks pretty simple to set up. There's some very clear instructions, and then there's it has like emulator detection and debugging detection to see if someone's trying to hacksaw your day. Anyway, and there's you just pop in like what you expect, like your package and signing key or whatever, and then you can get these like hooks come back for if it detected a root or emulator, and you can tell the user, no, you can't do this, or just shut down the app or something. There's you've got options. Yeah, this looks interesting. They're doing like this whole Flutter security piece now. So I have no idea. I don't know the company, know nothing about it. So yeah, there's no endorsement. I'm just curious. It's something that I think we've needed for a while, and to have that available to us now is actually quite good.
Very cool. One other thing I do want to bring up, Randall had mentioned GDE. There is also GDG, and the GDG groups are spinning back up. If you are not aware, GDG groups are all over the world, Google developer groups. They are basically meetups that are sponsored by Google. There are a number of different events that they can run that Google will actually help support. They don't support every talk, but things like machine learning code labs, Google I/O Extended, Flutter Code Labs, Android Code Labs, Firebase, GCP, all kinds of things like that. And you can find them right here at developers.google.com. Okay, and you can go and find a chapter near you and find an event near you. They are in only a couple of countries, like all of them, just about. But definitely check it out. That again is it also gdg.community.dev. That's where that link goes to. But the main portal is developers.google.com.
Yeah, I have been asked to coordinate and help coordinate a Portland revival, which is great because the Portland group has not met for since COVID. So it's been a long time. Didn't even meet virtually.
I'll be honest with you. Flutter London hasn't met up since that, and we're trying to sort of get it started back up again, a secure venue and all that.
And the North American region of GDG, that at Google, the people who help run the North American region have flown all the organizers into their local cities. When I say local, I mean there's about 5 different regions in the U.S. So they brought us to Chicago, sat us all down, said, here's where we're at, here's where we're trying to go, and here's what we can do to help you get there. So in the end, what this means to you is show up. Whether that be in person if you want, or if you're uncomfortable with that, almost every group is running hybrid now, which means you can attend the events of groups that are nowhere near you.
It makes a
really
huge
cool.
difference.
Yeah.
Also the other thing, other side of this is if your group near you is not started back up again, or if it's really small and you want to experience something larger, go try and join one of the other groups online. Like it all helps everyone, right? Talking about conferences and everything else, we have someone to join us on stream.
I'm trying. We're both hitting the button.
There he is.
Hi.
Hey.
Majid.
How's it going, everyone? I'm
good.
good. A bit tired, to be honest, but very good.
I see some tweets from you. Lots of things are happening.
Oh, it's a lot of things happening right now. A lot of things happening. Yeah, you're right.
So those that don't know, Majid is the man behind the mask, Flutter Vikings. He's really been the leading guy, sort of arranging everything.
Yeah, if you've ever seen the beard, this is the guy hiding under it, which is really strange because you see this great big Viking beard and the hat with the horns and everything, and he's got a nice color in his skin. I mean, it looks like, the Viking has been laying out on the beach in Mallorca, enjoying himself.
You're right, Scott.
So,
okay.
not ghost pale.
How is everything going with the event, Majid?
I think it's going pretty well. So it's been a couple of months actually we've been working on the event. So we had our online edition due to COVID in February, which was supposed to be an in-person event, and now we postpone everything to end of August. And that gave us a good opportunity to increase the number from 250, almost double the number, to 500. So the venue is pretty big right now. It's 3 floors, 3 big actually rooms. It's very soundproof and acoustic, let's say. So it's very isolated. So it's very, very nice atmosphere inside the room. You can shout as much as you want. I guarantee the other room will not hear you at all. And good for speakers for sure, because they can be very comfortable. Nothing will bother them inside the room. And also good for attendees, because they can just pay attention to speaker's voice and nothing else they will hear for sure. Nice. So I've been actually today in the venue for maybe the 10th time, for the last time at least, to measure the spaces for sponsors. And the company that you showed me right now, Simon, I've been working with them since 3 months ago. I know them very well. So I've been in touch with them. They're actually a sponsor for Flutter Vikings right now. So they will be in Oslo. You will meet them. They will have a booth, and they will have actually this app, the package that you showed, and a bunch of other things that they will introduce during the Flutter Vikings. And so we have, I measured all the areas for sponsors right now, preparing right now the wall, a soft wall behind all the sponsors. I was actually talking today to manager of the venue, because previously we had snacks in 2 times. And today I told him, people are coming here and I want the food, fruits, drinks, whatever to be available from 8 a.m. until 6 p.m. I don't mind how much people will eat. I just want them available. So everything will be there. So we decided which corner we will have for all of these kind of things. We're going to have a buffet. I confirmed the number today. And also, if different restrictions, and if you are vegan or vegetarian or whatever, you're welcome to the restaurant. And that's going to be a buffet. You can you can eat as much as you want.
So what you're saying is every attendee is going to leave 10 pounds heavier, and they should book their baggage accordingly.
Well, if you can, you can actually you can do that if you can, for sure. And the talks. Let's talk about the speakers. 40 speakers almost. Actually, it's 43, I think, including the online ones. So some of our speakers unfortunately cannot make it, but we decided to have their talk online, streaming for everyone at least. And
I'm curious. I'm curious. Will that be streaming like on a screen in the venue as well?
yes, yes. So everything that we see in the venue will most likely be also on live stream, including our launch time maybe, or we're gonna have some interview in between. I'm looking at some people here right now. Maybe they can help for like the interview stuff. They are on screen and very good at that. So because we're gonna have a cameraman running, in the venue, just recording stuff and maybe broadcasting things. So I also like the swag ones, the most popular things in any conferences. A lot of them. If I just turn the camera, like switch the camera a
I can
little
see boxes behind you there. Yeah,
you can see some of them at least. You see, it's just a lot of them right now. My office is like 20 square meters, and I have that much space as you see in the screen right now to sit. Everything else is just boxes. So a lot of swag. So like mugs, t-shirts, socks. One surprise, which I'm not able to say right now, you'll see when you come inside the bag. It's going to be a nice one. I think everyone will need that. Every developer need that for sure. We're going to have, we're going to have a community corner, and that's a very important thing. I actually work with GDG, as Scott mentioned, the lead in Europe, and GDE lead in Europe as well, to get some of the GDG organizers as well as GDE, my friends, to just come. The best place in the venue is the K1, where we have two big rooms, and the best place for sponsors is that area, and that is dedicated to community, because Flutter Viking is for community, is from community, and it will always stay for community. So you'll meet this corner. It's a big corner, 4 meters. It's a big space that I dedicated to community. So you can go there and actually get swag as well. Maybe dash. A lot of dashes are arriving.
That's how you get people to the sponsor booths. You see, you give the sponsors the dashes to give away.
Yeah, exactly.
See, now everybody wants to talk to the sponsors. That's how you do it.
Yeah, well, Scott, it's not only dash. We're gonna have also what is the Firebase mascot? I just forgot the name of that.
I literally just forgot. You said it, and
no. Okay.
The little fire.
Yeah, it's a little fire. Yeah, that one is also gonna be there in the corner, so you get that one too. Not everyone will receive that, but there are a lot of activities that you can do and you can take a part. And then once you win or you finish that one, you will receive those.
Okay. Sorry, we're starting to run a little late on time. Also, we did have one more question. When is it? Which is August 31st.
That was the last thing I wanted to mention.
September 1.
That's a good question. And my last thing to mention is end of August 31st and the 1st of September. So it's literally 2-3 weeks from now. And you can watch that online. Just subscribe to Flutter Community YouTube channel. So yeah, it's Sparkly. Yeah, that's the mascot for Firebase. That's correct. Yeah. Yes.
Entertainment too. Please don't spam. That's exactly what we were talking about.
Have you sold all the tickets now?
85% is sold out. So
there might be some tickets available for people that are watching right now.
That is exactly what I want to say. If you really want to come, you should grab your ticket, because I cannot have 500 even one. The 500 is maximum number that we can have in the venue.
The whole safety
Not
thing,
even one more.
Yeah,
so if you want the ticket, just go and grab your ticket and come. Otherwise, you need to watch it online, perhaps.
And also, it is summer in Oslo. You will not need skis to get to the venue.
Well, actually, Scott, speaking of that,
the
1st of September is a very good weather in Oslo. It's like around 20 degrees. It's not too warm and too
Gorgeous.
cold. It's very, very good weather.
20 degrees Celsius.
Yeah,
not
Celsius.
Fahrenheit.
Yeah, of course. Yes.
So, Scott, should we bring up the website? Yeah, there you go.
There we go.
So it's fluttervikings.com, and you get all the details there, and you can get the tickets and see the schedule and all
Awesome
that kind of fun
lineup.
stuff. So
known people, really, really good people who we know. Andre, Anna, always. Craig, there's a rumor he's at Google now. Eric wrote one of the first books on Flutter. Felix, Blocking Qubit. Philip, we all know Philip.
Have I just realized that Craig's... Hang on, go to Craig's background. Is he smiling so nicely because he's behind the Windows background? Is that a real place that he's going to?
That's true, isn't it? That's interesting.
It's the Windows XP background. He's found it.
Yeah, probably.
The one funny thing, you can never put Simon and Remy next to each other without starting an argument. Okay. So if you can put the two of them in a room together, Majid, sell extra tickets that are premium and get lots of popcorn.
Yeah. One last thing I mentioned is there will be a couple of announcements, which unfortunately I cannot talk about them, but stay tuned. And definitely, if you cannot come to Flutter Viking, at least watch it, because you'll see some surprises.
And to be clear, that people can get tickets for the online one. They have to.
Yes. Everyone must get a ticket. Online is free for sure, but for in person, you need to pay some money. That's literally the money that you have to pay for.
Catering in the building has to be paid for somehow, right?
Exactly. But literally in Norway, if you come for 2 days, go for buffet, it's the ticket price. Just that's the price that you have to pay. So that's definitely pay
attention. Go to Norway. It's a cheap vacation. It's not expensive at all. And is this special announcement, does that have something to do with what I heard, the secret announcement that Facebook is surrendering and all React Native apps are being ported to Flutter?
Maybe. Unfortunately, it's under NDA, but definitely some announcements. Something cool is coming. Wait for it.
Okay, we're almost halfway through the show, and we haven't started tagging any questions yet.
Thank you.
So
thank you.
I'm sorry, Randall's been tagging. We haven't been answering.
Yeah. There's like 7 in the queue right now, so we're working on it.
There we go. Okay,
So,
what's your opinion of using?
Hang on. You're gonna head off, Widget, yeah? Okay, cool.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you were staying for questions.
No, I think if anyone has questions, they can reach me out on. I'm very accessible. You can find me anywhere, literally. So just search my name and you find me, and send me a tweet, DM, email, whatever, and I will answer your question.
And that name again is Simon. What'd you do with our labels?
What, these labels?
These labels.
Yeah.
There you go.
My GT job.
Right.
Yes.
And there's always fluttervikings.com when people get to the content.
Exactly. Flutter Vikings. Yes.
Cool. Nice to have you, Majid.
Thank you very much, everyone.
And we'll speak soon.
See you, my friend.
Bye-bye.
All right. Now, Simon and everybody else,
wow.
What's your opinion of using 3D models with Flutter? There are some packages like Flutter Cube 3Dart, but performance isn't all that great, and Flutter isn't meant for 3D. Flutter uses the Sky engine, which is basically ported from Chrome. Long story short, Eric Seidel and some others had this crazy idea that if you took the rendering engine from Chrome, that it would be a lot more performant if it wasn't trying to do 50,000 different checks for conditions that certain websites have issues, and it has to check for them to see how to handle them, including an Israeli banking site from 1995 it has to check for. So what happened was they took the engine out and gave it known good data and got rid of all these safety checks just to see what it could do when you took the restraints off. And it was impressive enough that people at Google said, keep going, keep going. And we have Flutter now. But it is still the same underlying engine that's running Chrome, which is the Sky engine. But it's a lot faster than it is on Chrome, of course, because it doesn't do all those checks. Now, it is a 2D engine, so it's not intended for 3D. However, there is somebody on this stream who managed to hack it in about 20 minutes while I watched. Kind of like
this
that.
Is I'll post this tweet, but yeah, this is here you go. This is 3D in Flutter. There you go. This is actually the rendering a 3D environment in Flutter. So yes, it's perfectly possible, and good performance and everything else. I'm not even optimized, not even attempted to optimize any of this yet. So this is a PlayStation 1 game that I'm.
So did you use any packages for this, or did you do your usual?
There's no packages used in this. Well,
he did as usual.
Like the Flutter, obviously the Flutter package is used, and Flutter itself also comes with what's called vector math, which is the sort of base library for dealing with all this kind of stuff. So yeah, it's perfectly possible to do. In fact, go look at my talks, and I did some talks recently on it. I think the key here is, you basically what I'm doing there is I'm actually drawing 2D triangles with perspective correction. I won't go into that right now, but basically the point being that there are options, and that what they need to do is render. If you want like the full OpenGL experience, you're rendering with OpenGL, and then the texture, the output of OpenGL, because essentially all 3D does is render 2D, right? You take a 3D, and the output of the 3D environment gets rendered into 2D, and then that's rendered on the screen. So yeah, basically that's the same thing. We basically have a native platform view which hosts an OpenGL thing. That's what you would do if you want the full experience. This is purely rendered. What I just showed you is just done in Flutter. There's no OpenGL. There's nothing like that. It's just all done in Flutter.
Okay. And how did you do the texture mapping?
With great difficulty.
Yeah.
I mean,
I tried.
I have the textures, and then I have the texture coordinates. You convert the two, you make a texture atlas, you tell it to render. I mean, like the details are what you're looking into, and there's talks I've done on that, and things will be available to the public very soon. Once I've got around to finishing it, because at the moment it's pretty hacky mess right now. So it's not ready for prime time. I don't want people finding issues saying it doesn't perform very well, or it doesn't do this, or it doesn't do that, or blah blah blah. It's like I'm not ready for that, like input on it just yet. But soon.
All right.
What was
Next, using a background fetch library for running background tasks. Any idea to get headless background fetch location, specifically? Apparently Latin long, which would be the geolocation package. Yes,
it's very much frowned upon tracking someone's location in the background, and in fact, pretty much I think all the latest versions of the operating systems don't let you do that, particularly because of privacy concerns. What you want to be doing is I mean, I don't know any reason why you'd want to, right? Like what you can do,
I can think of some illegitimate reasons, but
yes. But what you can do in terms of Android is start up what's called a foreground service that then goes and fetches the location and then stores it and then returns it to the background. But again, it's not something that you do constantly. I mean, the point here is that if someone's using your app, they have the app open, you fetch their location. Like there should be, there's not many very reasonable reasons good reasons to have, fetching in the background. And frankly, they just deny you doing it. So figure out a way of performing whatever you're trying to do with your app, but with fetches in the foreground.
And it could also be a good way to get kicked off the store.
Yeah, I do like the fact that when I come back to a venue that I've been to before, in Swarm or Foursquare, same thing. It says, "Oh, welcome back," and you're the mayor of this particular venue or whatever. And so that means it is running in background all the time, trying to figure out where I'm at and probably burning battery up.
No. Let me just clarify this point. It is not doing that. So the operating systems provide specific functionality for that kind of thing. It's called geofencing, and it's the notion
or beacons.
Of what you do is you register an area of, let's say, so you could say your house or X number of meters within a certain period, like center point, and then you register those with the operating system. You can register, I think, on Android up to 100 per application. And when the operating system, you go into that area, the operating system will notify your app that it's entered the geofence or exited the geofence, or you stayed within the geofence for a period of time. And you can, that's literally to stop apps from doing stuff in the background when they shouldn't be, just consuming your battery. Half the reason for the way that the operating systems work and giving this functionality is because they do it once and share the data between all apps. So imagine that every app on your phone was trying to access your current location, and each one was doing it independently. It would take up so much battery. All of them would be using the GPS. What happens is, by having location service, it goes and gets it once and then shares it to all the applications, meaning that there's a lot less battery consumed, there's a lot less power and all the rest of it that goes along with that. And that's why geofencing is a thing. So that also might help the guy with the background.
And so there's also in there, don't forget, every time an app tries to use the GPS for the first time, it asks for permission, and you can always say only when using this app. So the operating system helps protect you in that way. But yeah, geofencing, there is also something called beacons that might make it appear that your location's being tracked. No, that just means you got near something. And that particularly can happen in stores, which is a little disturbing. You walk past a display and suddenly you get information about it.
I've just put a link to the geofence stuff in the chat for Android. The beacons are Bluetooth beacons, and what they are is that you can have your application registered to listen to it for beacon locations, so that think of it more like you're in relation to something, and it knows that you're in a certain distance because of the Bluetooth signal quality, and therefore can provide you some information about that. So there's many reasons that physical location makes a difference, and in real world terms, and that's where those beacons come in.
All right.
There's actually I just mentioned, if I mention this quickly, there's Dent Reality, which is a startup here in the UK, and I think the owner, his last name is Dent, maybe, but anyway, he's actually doing tracking within inside supermarkets, telling you what shelf a product's on, how to get to that shelf, how to navigate based on current consumer traffic and all this kind of stuff, like making the shopping supermarket experience really nice. And I think that there's some really interesting stuff that happens when you start doing those Bluetooth beacons and internal built-in tracking. Anyway,
so remember all those sci-fi movies where when you walk past a store display and suddenly it tells you information? They might be coming true, or at the very least, we can already do it on the phone, but only if the user is already running your app when they walk past it.
I mean, we were saying this before, we spoke of this previously, but things like the fact that we have like tablets, right, that are really, really thin, that you can interact with entire internet, full color and all the rest of it. It's like, well, if you saw this in Star Trek in the 90s and you're like, that's so funny. No way we're going to have that stuff. And then, couple of decades later, 20 years later, here they are, and it's like we see what we do in sci-fi, we kind of react and go, that's what I'm aiming for, and people try and build that, and it directs technology in a direction. I think that's
it's been 40 to 50 years for Star Trek. It took a little longer for Dick Tracy, where you talk to your watch and you can communicate with others. The boss.
Right. So
okay, Flutter Inspector.
I'm gonna steal just before we go on to a different topic, just because this is so cool, and I think our audience would like this. This is what I was just talking about. and let me just see if this will play through, because so there you go, install, right, and then up you go, and then look, you get all these kind of like directions as to where to turn. Look at this, so it tells you where you want to go, and you lift your phone up, and then you get an overlaid VR kind of experience.
Yep.
Anyway,
And that is your
Amazon
camera
is testing
doing
that.
That's actually, though, that's part of Google Maps.
It's not in that way. Not internal to buildings. You can't do internal buildings.
Okay, not internal to buildings. Okay.
Anyway, there's special technology you have to work with and build to make that work.
Okay, we have 13 questions and 22 minutes.
When I use the Flutter Inspector in Android Studio, it resets my app and I lose my place in Navigator, so I can't inspect later routes. How can I avoid this? Okay, so 2 things. One, it is your app that is broken.
Yeah.
So what's happening is you're not holding onto your state correctly. So your UI is being rebuilt, and when your UI is being rebuilt, it loses the navigation state. So this is probably because you have nested stream builders or nested future builders. It's a very common use case where they go flip back to a loading state and then flip back to the normal state. You'll lose all your stack of UI underneath that, right? So this, in fact, Randall there's a really good video on his YouTube channel about this. So I can tell you right now, what happens is when you open up the Flutter Inspector, it adds the little search icon on the bottom screen as an overlay, and it does some other things like highlights and debugging. When it does that, it rebuilds your screen, and then you're losing your state. It's not the Flutter Inspector's fault. It's because you're not managing your state correctly. So yeah, it's always future builders or stream builders are the place I'd look at first. Let me give you a clue here. If you don't provide initial data or initial to your future builder or stream builder, that's probably a problem. Also, if your future or your stream parameter to those builders is generating a future every single time, or a stream every single time, like it's a function that returns a stream, then that will also break. What you need to do is capture your future or your stream in your init state, put it into a variable in your state, and then use that variable in your future builder or stream builder or whatever. That completely
the proper model. The proper model is to think of build being called up to 60 times a second. And in fact, if you've got an animation running, it will be called 60 times a second. So if you have anything you're constructing, like a future or a stream inside a future builder or a stream builder inside the build, it's going to get reset 60 times a second, and you get no data at all.
All right,
the nice thing you can actually do, and that's what you can actually do in terms of when you try to solve those state problems, is put a button at the top of your UI, which does like that. It does like a rebuild, and you can see what happens, right? Like you can do you can call reassemble or something. Anyway.
We need to stop taking new questions. We now have 15 and 20 minutes.
Well, so if you need to
keep things moving.
You can head off. I'll
Oh, okay. Is it possible to detect an app crash and handle it gracefully?
Yes. This is exactly what's built in. It's like you run zoned is what you're missing. So inside your main function, you want to be using run zoned, and you can pass in a new error exception method, and that's basically any exception that's not caught further up in your app stack will travel down and get caught by that. There's also Flutter error.onError handler or something like that, and that also does the UI errors that come from the Flutter engine. Basically, that's where if you install Crashalytics or Sentry or any of the other crash plugins, that's how they introduce themselves. But you can easily just log it yourself or do whatever you want to do. Like restart the app and just call run app again, as Randall showed in his latest video. There's lots of ways of dealing with it. The key, obviously, just to be clear, if you're trying to do like a graceful restart, is be cautious of your global scope. So obviously you restart your app, you're going to have your global variables, your static instances, they're all going to still persist. So you need to make sure you manage that state correctly, like have one state, one reference to state that you can clear and reset. Otherwise, you're going to get into some horrible messes. To be clear, those are errors. They're not necessarily crashes. A native crash, that is a purely sort of like the app is gone, right? There's nothing you can do about that. Like that is the operating system. Like your processor's crashing, the operating system is killing your entire thing, and that will be reported to the Play Store or to the Apple App Store as a native crash. Those are errors that you should be addressing, like as a high priority. If you so check those out once you release your app. Yeah,
very cool. All right, newly created projects get new config features compared to the old projects. What's the best way to update an existing project, and where the Android and iOS configuration has been modified? I believe you're talking about Android V2 versus V1.
We had this a couple of times, right? When we went to null safety, there was a big change to like the template and stuff and how that all worked. And then there was also the Android embedding V2 when that came out. There was a whole sort of changeover we had to do. I think the key here is I can tell you the way I approach this, right? And that is I delete. So first of all, it's all checked into my repo, into my Git repo, right? My entire project, my Android, my iOS folders, right? For my project. I delete my Android folder. I delete my iOS folder. I then run Flutter create dot, which means the current dot means the current directory. I run that in the terminal in the IDE, and that will regenerate all the files that the default template would normally provide. I can then look at my Git tool, and that will tell me what has changed from the version that I had originally and the version, the version that's new. Obviously, now if I've changed like the app delegate in iOS, or I've changed the main activity in some fashion in Android, or I've done some other configuration changes, I'm then going to see the difference in Git. Like you can do a Git diff if you're on the command line, or whatever Git tooling or UI tool that you're using. You'll be able to see a diff, which is the lines that are added, lines that are removed, and compare them. And then you have to pick and choose the bits you want to keep from your Git repo and put back into the new template. And it's just a process you're going to have to go through. But here's the key concept here, and that is if you were doing this as a native app, it would still be this problem, right? Like this isn't like a Flutter, just a made-up Flutter problem. You would have this problem no matter what. And in fact, it'd be a lot more difficult because you normally have to like go for a whole hullabaloo to kind of like upgrade an app from one major version of an operating system to another, or vice versa. So these things don't happen all that often with Flutter, and if you keep up to date, it's normally not even a remote problem.
One little point that I also put in the chat already, it is Flutter create space dot, not Flutter create dot. And that's, well, I mean, it's just a tiny thing. We all say Flutter create dot, but to people who haven't done it before, the space does matter.
I will also just suggest that you can actually run this, which is Flutter create -- help, and that will tell you what that dot means and all the other arguments and parameters. You can say just create Windows, just create Mac, iOS only, Android only, whatever. Like it's got lots of options. So check it out.
Very cool. Okay. An interesting one here. What's the difference between the Dart VM and the Java VM? Actually, there's a huge difference.
Where to begin?
there was actually an argument about the Dart VM a long time ago. Now, this does not answer your question. This is just an amusing story. About 3.5 years ago, there was quite the argument, and somebody was saying that Flutter does have a Dart VM, and someone was saying it doesn't in a release app. So what it turned out was after 3 days of arguing, they realized that the people who were saying it did have a VM were talking about low-level interfaces with the hardware. And the people who were saying it does not were saying that the code is not interpreted and that it's ahead of time compiled, which is the actual difference. Dart VM, the one interpreting the code, is running during debug. This is what allows you to inject different states, what allows you to do a hot reload, because it's in the VM. For the hot restart, you can compile very quickly. For a hot reload, you can just look at the running app and stick a new state right in there, and the next frame renders it. You can't do that in a production app that's ahead of time compiled. And then Java, if I remember correctly, is interpreted in real time, Simon?
I mean, there are some JIT-based things with it sometimes. Anyway, the point here is the Java VM uses Java bytecode, and that in turn is Dalvik bytecode in Android. But the point here is uses an intermediary representation to run the code. those themselves are very highly optimized functions. Anyway, it's complicated, and the best thing I can say about the whole difference between the Dart VM and Java VM is the Dart VM is not a virtual machine. So the name originally came from the fact that it was completely interpreted as a replacement for JavaScript. So it was a virtual machine in that sense. Now the Dart VM is really the runtime. Now what I'm going to do is post a link in the chat, and I'll bring this up on stream. This website is by, I can't remember his name. Hang on a minute. What's his name? Can you pronounce his name? He works on compilers at Google on Dart. I forgot his name. But anyway,
Vyacheslav
Ikarov. Anyway, I'm butchering it as I do with most names. Anyway, he wrote a really great blog post here. This is a little bit old, but it's still, I think, a really great source of truth. And as you can see here, the Dart VM is a collection of components for executing Dart code natively. Notably includes the following: a runtime system for object model, garbage collection, snapshots, core libraries and native methods, a development experience component with debugging with the just-in-time and ahead-of-time compilation pipelines, interpreter, and ARM simulator. So it's like the whole thing, right? However, the name of the Dart VM is historical. Dart VM is a virtual machine in the sense that it provides execution environment for higher-level programming language. However, it does not imply that Dart is always interpreted or JIT compiled when executing on a Dart VM. For example, Dart code can be compiled into machine code using the Dart VM AOT pipeline and then executed with a stripped-down version of the Dart VM called a pre-compiled runtime, which does not contain any compiler components and is incapable of loading Dart source code dynamically. Okay, that says it in full, right? That is the difference, right? If you're really interested in the topic, I'm going to bring this up again because it's worth just quickly peeking into this. This article goes into how the entire engine works, how all the inner workings work. If you're interested in that kind of stuff, this is your go-to. There's the little instruction opcodes, intermediary opcodes, and all that other fun stuff. So it's very in depth, very detailed, and there's a lot to go through. So. Yeah, I won't go for the stream, but
okay.
Worth looking into.
A couple quick little points before we move on to the next one. Danielle, my friend, of course you did. Excuse me if I'm slightly skeptical. And also, this is jaw-dropping.
So it's not.
Oh no,
really.
Just let people enjoy it. Don't correct it.
No. I just find it funny because so many companies. I remember playing around with CVS, concurrent versioning system, then SVN, subversion system, whatever it's subversion. Subversion, it's SVN, yeah. And now we have Git, and there's companies, and there's also Mercurial as well, repository management, and these are the base sort of systems that have been around for version control of files for a long time. And historically we've gone forward, but it wasn't until it was 2021, right? It wasn't until it got serious when the Linux kernel started, just everything went over to Git, all the Linux stuff. It's like, okay, this made a trend, and then that kind of snuck over and started filtering down into the world, and away we go. Anyway, I won't go into it, but Git, is definitely for me from having experienced all three of the ones I just mentioned, CVS, SVN, and Git is the best one, I think. I mean, it's the latest one, so I would hope it's the best. It's progressively improved, right? People's understanding of these things.
And Perforce, never forget Perforce. It was over in the corner there somewhere.
Oh yeah, Perforce. Oh yeah, but they still do tooling now, don't they? I think Perforce. They still have P4. They still do P4 merge.
Yeah,
a popular merge. Forget. Anyway.
All right, the history lessons are wonderful.
Yeah. Old fogies. Yeah, go on.
Yeah. One other one I want to throw in here real quick. It's out of sequence, but as someone who's new, do I have to learn all the state management methods and clean architecture, then practice, or practice first? Okay, number one, Nobody knows all the state management methods. Don't even try. That you'll hurt yourself. Clean architecture, really the architecture is going to be determined in large part by which state management solution you decide on, not completely. You have a lot of freedom. But I would
there is a generalized
really
learning of programming techniques, right?
Exactly. Right, that's where I was going, was general clean code, good naming conventions, object-oriented, of course. Consistency. You do want to look at a couple of patterns. You don't kill yourself with a Gang of Four book. There is a great place to get, where is it here in our banners? Christopher Akravi does an incredible series on design patterns right there. You want to focus mainly on the composition pattern, the state pattern, and the observer pattern. Also, after that, I would look at the factory pattern. And also, I don't think he did one on the facade pattern, also known as the repository pattern.
Another one is another common one if you're dealing with hierarchical data is visitor pattern.
Oh, it's a visitor, yes. But the main ones to understand for Flutter, to keep it simple, Flutter is all composition pattern, a lot of state pattern. And when you get into state management, that's almost always some variation on the observer pattern.
I mean, for the beginners, I know we don't talk about this, but I will just quick briefly to say we talk about these patterns, right? But there's these base concepts that we have in most object-oriented languages, OOP languages, right? And that is like a class and a method, and these things that communicate, and then you can have things that are static and so on. It's how you use all this functionality that the language gives you, how you combine it all together, and you make a pattern from that, like a behavior. Inside the flow of the logic flow of your application, you're making a pattern of behavior, and that pattern is why we give it a name. Because when I start talking about the visitor pattern, and someone else has read about the visitor pattern, it's easy to discuss something because we're talking about the same logical way of something is done. That's why we can say Flutter uses composition with its widgets because that's the pattern. So it's not strictly speaking. You don't have to go, I'm going to do exactly like this, right? You combine and these things together and do whatever you want to do. The key, I think, from learning to answer the question directly, sorry, quickly, I would say try some of these patterns out, and it's more about programming in general. Like start trying to do stuff with Flutter, and you have a problem, see how many ways you can solve that problem, make a different branch in your repo to try and solve it different ways, learn from those things. You do not have to know every state management thing. Don't have to try lots of different things.
And if you don't know any of them at all, I think the fastest way to get started on something, my own personal thoughts, is take 2 hours to learn scope model and then roll right into provider. Provider will take you about a day from there because scope model gives you a great foundation, and then roll right out of provider and into RiverPod, and you'll be on the current state management that a lot of people are using. Block is another one, but it's a completely different way of approaching things. And as Simon was saying with patterns, when there is a problem, patterns are standardized cookie cutter ways of solving certain very common problems. And to put this in non-programming terms, let's say you need shelter and there's a lot of snow. There's 2 meters of snow every couple of weeks. Okay, odds are what you want to do is build 4 walls and a roof with a peak on it so that the snow rolls off. Pretty simple, right? Now, there's a million variations on this because the pattern is 4 walls and a slanted roof. You can do a million things with it, but every solution to this problem is going to start with 4 walls and a slanted roof, so we could call it the 4-wall roof pattern.
You should also know that you can do a lot already with the built-in set state. So just having state that's associated with your current widget set state is fully enough to manage that.
Yeah, I
so
have
you
to
don't
say,
need any of these other things until you start talking between widgets. The thing when you start talking
even
between
then,
widgets, you do this stuff.
I've done things. Someone who was what was I doing? I was doing. You could do context dot find ancestor widget of exact state or exact type and all this. And
yes, but that's if someone is still thinking that they have to learn all the state management, they're probably not ready for that one.
No, but my point is, if you're trying to communicate, so there's a very common problem, right, in Flutter because of the composition pattern. You have to pass. Let's say I want to get my setting of color, and I have to pass it down to all my widgets to use the color, right? This is a problem because now every widget has to have a color parameter. I have to pass it from one widget to the next widget to the next widget, and it makes a big mess. They're already in a hierarchy. They already know about their relationships to each other when they're running, right? So the idea is that you can use your context, that is where you are in the tree right now for simplification, and you can go up the tree and find your parent or your parent's parent or some ancestor in the tree to get the information from. And that's where you can just have a widget at the top called color provider or I don't know, color theme, whatever, your own widget, and it has one parameter for color. And inside every other widget, you can just do find widget of exact type, color theme. You get the object back, get the color from it, and that's it. Magic, you've done it. Now if you then there's inherited widgets and all this other stuff and rebuilding automatically. This is all state management, right? We're not talking about that. But the point is, if you want to communicate with widgets that are closely related to each other, let's say a form with all its fields or a screen or some component, simple context find ancestor will be perfectly fine.
Yep. Which is another reason it's important. I'm going to have to go myself here in just a moment, but it's very, very important that if anybody ever suggests to you that you use a package that abstracts the context away, run. Run quickly. And that's all I'll say on that topic. So, folks, I've got to run. I've got a meeting over some food. And so you all enjoy, and I'm going to go have some wings.
Right. Have fun, and we'll see you soon.
Scott.
Bye.
Bye, Scott. We still have 11 questions in the queue. We'll hopefully get to some of them.
Yeah, I think I'm going to try and get to all of these. So I'm going to dive through a few of them quickly right now.
Sure.
Feel free to pipe up, by the way, Randall, whenever you need to, because I'm just going to plow through them otherwise, right? So does Flutter have a default widget for working with rich text, something similar to a Word document? Well, you have the text widget, and the text widget has a constructor called rich, which you provide an inline span to, which is rich text. But for editing rich text, no, it does not. And that's where there's now, in fact, I'll keep it on the screen here. You can go to hub.dev, and I think is it super editor? Sorry, super editor, that's the one. This is what I'd say is the go-to current gold standard for rich text editing. It's called Super Editor. Quite a few people in the community were involved. It's primarily made for Superlist by the Flutter Bounty Hunters, and that's Matt Carroll and a few of us in the community. And I'd say that is your best mechanism of doing sort of document editing and so on. But document editing has always been a problem because working with complex, let's say, give an example here. Let's say you're publishing a leaflet, right? And it's laid out as an A4 size piece of paper, and you've got all these boxes laid out. Now you've positioned them, you've edited them. That is rich content, right? Now what happens is, how do you load that on a mobile phone? Because it's not made for that physical dimension. It's not made for that same aspect ratio. The fonts need to be larger because it's a smaller screen to easy to read, or vice versa. Like, there's a whole slew of problems that arise from around rich text in lots of different form factors. And none of them are easy, right? So just to be clear, the what you kind of get from a lot of them online is not like the original Word document thing. The reason why Word exists as a product, and the reason why Google Docs exists as a product, is because it's a product in of itself, editing rich text. It is a huge problem. It has a huge problem space, problem domain, and things to solve. So just taking a step back here, I would say text.rich if you're just trying to display rich text, and super editor if you're trying to edit text.
Cool.
Next. wanted to know about server-driven UI techniques and how we manage state in it. Any resources available to learn. Server-driven UI technique. I think he means. I'm having a hard time understanding. Like, so you've got two things here. So server-driven UIs just reminds me of two things. One is you're building your UI on the server side, like your structure of UI, and you're sending it down to the device which renders it. That is called server-side rendering, right? That's where your server is doing the hard work of building your UI kind of structure or hierarchy of elements, and then it sends it pre-made as like a blob down to the client. The other side of this is also you can render it completely on the server side as a bitmap, as an image, and then you send the image down, which is like screen sharing and stuff like that, where you kind of send it down. Those are the two techniques that are server-side UI that I know of, right? There is the one I go to right now, if you're thinking about Dart and Flutter, is a package called Jasper. I mentioned this, probably there's people here that come every week, and we kind of have some very similar questions. But yeah, Jasper is a package that is a Dart web framework. It feels very much like Flutter, so familiar component model to Flutter. It does easy server-side rendering with automatic hydration. Still early stages. All the help the community can give, the better. And yeah, you can go check that out. And if you go to the demo playground, you can just like start editing the code and seeing it output on the right here. And there's some great examples of really cool things you can do and build UI and have it server-side rendered. And this solves the problem of SEO in Flutter in terms of you can still write Dart code. Yes, it's not Flutter widgets, but you can still write Dart code, and then it's SEO not. It's SEO safe, as it were. Like it answers that problem. So yeah.
Yep.
Fabian, code generated client packages for API. Code generated client package for API, either open API generators or Artemis. Do you create domain layout? What if you constantly had to update your domain models to be up to date with CodeGen? I mean, so if you've got an open API and it's changing all the time, just have it so that when it changes, you have some CI/CD kind of automation that reruns the code generator and commits the code in the repo. There you go. Then it's always up to date. It would obviously break. You do it on the development branch. You expect it to break on that branch, and then you have to fix it, and then it can show up a warning. Then that there's a break and change that's taken place. I mean,
I found that the mapping from the API or data transfer objects up to the data domain layer that the app is actually using always requires a bit of hand tooling. I don't know how to make that much more automatic than it is.
I had to say, like we talk about programming, and it's like it always seems to be a kind of a lot of people it's always like gluing packages together or gluing other people's code together, right? That's your job. Your job is to make it work in code. Right. And this
exactly.
is it. You have your data transfer model, which is what comes over the API on your network, and you have your domain model that your app deals with, your view and your view model, and then you transfer between them and do all the stuff. I don't know. You have to.
That's what we get paid to do. I know. We get paid for that.
You have to constantly update it. It constantly changes. I don't think there's any like magical answer. Like, do you create a domain layer? Yes, I create a domain layer. What if you have to constantly update it? Then I constantly update it. Obviously, whatever you can automate, whatever you can code gen, the better, right? But yeah, there's no reason why you have to stick to that only, right? Like I don't know. There's a lot of avenues around that.
You could use one of these zero code solutions and just basically keep changing it in your web view of the thing, but whatever. Anyway, no, that's what we get paid to do, is fix all this stuff.
What is the general opinion? Dear, we had to have one.
Why did you pull that one up? It's got the forbidden word.
It's the next one in the queue. I want to know how much is used in the community. I honestly don't know anyone that's using it in a product at all. So that and I've been around the community for a long time. So that tells you how much it's actually being used in the community. The community as a whole has quite noticed the fact that it's popular, but no one knows and uses it. So it can't be that popular. So
right,
and you get this thing like it's more popular apparently than provider. Yet provider is the most popular state management solution used in literally every Flutter app. So you know, make up your own mind about it. But we'll leave it there.
Yeah, that's enough on that.
Flutter hacks. I have been building POS or point of sale desktop application with Flutter. That's cool. It's a really good application of Flutter. I love it. I haven't found any solution to auto update in my app without user interactions for one click. What could you offer or advice? Okay, hang on. I haven't found any solution to auto update my app without user interactions or one click.
One click, maybe.
Update.
Yeah, it's like a new release or something. Yeah.
Well, does he mean new release? Because you can definitely do that without any user interaction. Or does he mean this is Flutter Web and then like, or does he mean like maybe you can provide a quick clarification on what you're asking here? The other side of this is auto updating, as in just magically updating the UI without any user interaction, like a refresh button or something. I don't know. I think you can't really provide an answer, really. Like from a desktop, I mean, it says specifically desktop and updating. Go on.
I'm guessing that this is related to the fact that React Native can squirt new brains in sort of automatically, you know, and people are sort of used to that from the React Native world. And now they want the same thing in Flutter, and it's a much more difficult problem in Flutter. Yeah,
but no desktop app has ever done it that way. I mean, it's like web is something where you refresh and you're doing it right, which is still a user interaction, and you can still just do. To be honest, you could still do that with Flutter, right? Like you can actually build like there's several ways of doing this where you have more of a modular approach to the way you build your application and have your app built out of modules, and then you can recombine those modules and reconstitute how the UI is laid out using some JSON stuff. And in fact, I've done that before, so I know you can do that. And there's, you know, updating. I mean, you can just auto update, like have a little something that pops up, has a little timer, a little progress bar that says, if you don't press cancel, I'm going to restart an update. And when it gets to the end, restart the app, start a process for this setup program, the update program, and then shut the app down, do process.exit or whatever, and that's it. Magic. You've shut down your app and you've started up the setup program. Once the setup program finishes, it relaunches your app again. You've no user interaction.
I also want to caution. Sorry, I also want to say I also want to caution people who are asking questions that POS can be interpreted two different ways. Never mind. All right. I can't say the other one. I can't say the piece of.
Anyway. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's when you're talking about desktop app, it's point of sale, which is like
point of sale.
Sales systems.
Right.
I've heard that no tool is a silver bullet. Does Flutter have any known flaws that make it weak, etc.? Any blind spots we need to handle, or simply have to live without? So it's
not good for web.
It's not. It's the thing is, it's not trying to. You're not trying to. Yeah, as I say, well, websites is one thing, but the nature of using a UI toolkit is it's a toolkit. It facilitates. It's not trying to do everything for you.
Right.
So there's no silver bullet, and Flutter is not a silver bullet, right? So for it to say like it doesn't do GPS, your operating system does the GPS, and you interact with your operating system with Dart and Flutter, and that's the same for most of the flaws, as you might say, is all the cons in using Flutter is that if there's anything you can't do built in with Flutter, like a library that's already been made or something that someone's already put together with Dart and Flutter, then you have to go external. And to go external, then you're doing platform views and putting stuff in. This is the same with any language. Like if example, let's say you're building your app with Python, and over here is the C++ library you want to use. Well, now you have to interact with that. It's a different language. You're crossing language barriers, not compiled in and all this. This is programming, right? This is the complexities of using different bits of software, modules, and so on. So flaws, no. I to be honest, like again, like 3D was the example we spoke about earlier. It doesn't directly do 3D. It's not 3D. It's not a 3D games engine. You know, it's not meant for that. However, you can do 3D in it, as I've shown. And if you want to do 3D, what you can do is use, as I just said, a platform view, which is like using an external program essentially to render the content and bring it into Flutter. And which is exactly how a video player works, right? Like it decodes the video and then it outputs an image, and that image is what's displayed inside Flutter. Anyway, hopefully that helps. I can't think. Do we have any blind spots we have to live with? No. I mean, anyway, Roberto, is it bad to use add post frame callback for delaying something in its state? No. In fact, I made a library that does just that.
Nice.
What was it called? I can't remember. It doesn't need to get updated. Hang on a minute. I'm going to bring it up just because. Why not? Right. Hi, it's my stream. I can do what I want. Yeah, here you go. After layout. There you go. Brings functionality to execute code after the first layer of a widget is performed. Because there's several times that you might want to do this, and for beginners, it can be difficult. So basically, the idea is you don't want to do this, right? So if you were to call like show hello world at this place here in a init state, that would and show hello world tries to show a dialog. The context doesn't exist properly in state yet, so it would break. The idea is that you would add a mix in called after layout, and then after first layout, when you get this function gets called, you then do show hello world, and it would show perfectly fine. And literally the whole code for this package. I'm going to grab it here. The whole code, the entirety of the thing is this.
Yeah. Had to be simple. Yeah.
So the end of frame is add post frame callback, but it groups them together. So it has one callback and this future completes for all of those things. So slightly more optimized solution, but there you go. That's it. That's the entire. So yeah, in truthfulness, it's fine with one caveat. Is that you expect to have a frame called, which in init state you do, but not all instances do you get a frame. So just to say, go on.
And it's a good answer, good solution. I just want to go back to the previous question just for a second. There was one of the issues about the state of the world for Flutter is if there's not a plugin to be able to talk to like GPS, like you mentioned. I just discovered this thing called JS Core that actually provides cross-platform access to core APIs in JavaScript. It actually buries a JavaScript interpreter that knows how to talk API. I'll put it all in the chat room here. But it's really clever. I'm going to do a screencast on it. Yeah.
I mean, it's an interesting idea, but I'm not sure I want to if you need to add scripting capabilities, then you choose JavaScript, you choose Lua script, you choose a general scripting language, you invent your own scripting language to make things slightly easier. But then you have to include an entire interpreter with your app. So just to be clear, you start using these JavaScript libraries, you shipping JavaScript with your application as part of your application.
Actually, no. Flutter.js Core actually talks via FFI to your native JavaScript interpreter, like the whatever it is in iOS and Android separately.
It doesn't. They don't ship with them. Android doesn't ship with a JavaScript engine.
Okay, I'm wrong then.
It will talk with it. In fact, I just opened it up. It will. Hang on. Let me bring this up on stream. Yeah. So you ship a dynamic library as part of it. So here it ships JavaScript core framework, or the DLL file, or whatever, right? Or JSC.so. So this will get shipped as part of your library, and then if you look at probably in the distribution somewhere in here, I don't know. I'm just gonna take a gander and a guess. Does it ship it in some fashion? I have no idea. So somewhere
it's still cool that it enables access for somebody like me to iOS and Android calls that aren't yet in a Swift or Kotlin package. I can do JS.
here's the JNI libraries, and then we have one for each, which is fine. Like it would separate them off. ARM64. There you go. Lib C++ is shipped apparently. There you go. I don't know. It's probably others. I'm not even going to go there. But yeah, it's interesting. But be warned, like you might inflate your binary size a lot larger than you realize.
Right. Sorry for derailing, but I thought it was an interesting project. I hadn't seen it before.
It is, and there's practical purposes to it. For example, there is several reasons why you might want to do that, and that does a lot. You have to be careful though, because even when you do that, I think you can come across, you can get issues with iOS's over-the-air update rules.
Yeah,
they don't let you ship code over the air, strictly speaking, except obviously a hybrid app that comes from a website is shipping code over the air, and they have like a caveat for that. But anyway, it's complicated. Anyway, I see a package Flutter Rust Bridge said Rust can help Flutter to have better performance. Is this true? If yes, what cases should I use this package? I give an example. And this is not to do with Dart specifically. This is any programming. Okay, so let me be clear. So the higher you go in a language, the more overhead there is to managing your interaction with that language. This is normally the case with all. So as you go up the stack. Now, Dart is very much optimized now. Like where it is now compared to where it was is hugely optimized. Like image processing, to do that directly in Dart, process every pixel. Not too long ago in Dart 1 was absurd. You just wouldn't do it because it would take too long. Essentially, it was just impractical. Now it's a lot more practical because the performances that the engine brings. But still, if I move that to a lower level, I can make a tighter loop. I can make finer controlled code that just runs the specific operations I want over the specific bits of data that I want. And it's always going to be a lot quicker than any sort of interaction with object level stuff, right? Like I don't have to create all free objects. I don't have, the I as in like the software that runs. It doesn't have to create free objects. It doesn't have to manage and dereference lots of different things and everything else that goes on just to make the code work, right? So that's where like what they're saying here, and that is the notion of anything that deals with a lower level language like C, C++, and so on and so forth, is that you can get better performance. Rust is very much a systems level program. You wouldn't build an app in Rust, but you could. I'm not going to say you can't, but you probably wouldn't, because it would take you a lot longer and it would be less practical. However, the end result in performance would be higher. So there's always a trade-off with these things. So what you want to do, and you said, as you said here, what cases should you use this for? For example, let's say my app is to take some CSV files from the user, do lots of data processing on them, and generate charts or something, right? This might be something that needs to deal with the gigabyte files, right? Well, if I'm going to start doing this kind of like huge billion byte calculations, right, on data, then I'm probably not going to do that in Dart, right? I probably would try doing Dart and see what the performance is like, and if the performance is fine, well, fine, that's good. However, then maybe I ship the app with Dart and go, okay, I want to make this faster. My users are unhappy that it takes 12 seconds to do this processing, when I wonder if I can make it faster. So then you go recreate the processing bit in Rust, use the Rust bridge to the Rust code to do the processing and return the result. And lo and behold, maybe you've dropped it down to 5 seconds, right? And all your users are very much happier, right? So I think the case here is very few and far between. And you wouldn't use Rust for any UI related stuff, because you wouldn't see any performance benefit from that, right? We're just adding more complexity to your code.
Yep.
Anything to add to that? Cool. Sorry,
I'm just saying. Yeah. I mean, it's like you got to watch it every time you cross a boundary, because you've got to translate things. You might have a what do they call it? A mismatch, an impedance mismatch between the two, in terms of understanding on one side what an object is versus the other side. Yeah, because they're different languages, right? So you got to watch out for that.
That's what we watch for when we're doing with method channels in Flutter. You're crossing that channel, they get serialized and deserialized. That's crossing a bridge, which is crossing the Ross bridge. You have to translate, you have to serialize, deserialize some data into buffers. The same goes for the JavaScript core stuff. You're going to cross the JavaScript, you're going to cross that boundary, you're going to have to have some sort of translation there, and all those cost.
Yes.
So for example, I think I saw this before. Someone was saying this, right? Which was sorry, I'm not talking about this question. Someone said this before, which was, why don't I build something? Why don't you just like have Flutter working, say C# or something, right? And their idea was, I'm going to replicate the entire interface, let's say for a widget in C#. This is just a make-believe scenario, right? I'm just choosing something. So you recreate the entire interface for like a Flutter widget in C#. So then I can write C# code for Flutter, and then every time there's a function called, let's say to init state or build or back out and forth, I now have to go over, translate to some code, call the Dart sort of thing, and come back again. Each one of those things that has to go through that layer has an overhead attached to it, which would slow your app down immensely when added up to the full amount it has to do. This is one of the reasons why OpenGL1 went the way of the dinosaur, because OpenGL1, every dot you added to the screen, every point was a GL vector command, right? And it was a separate command for every little dot. And then they realized, hang on, this doesn't, there's so much overhead. Let's send a buffer. And so instead, they started sending buffers of vector points and coordinates and textures. And now there's the whole sort of system has changed to push everything to the graphics card, and we just tell it how to use that data on the graphics card. So yeah, anyway, I'll shut up now and go on for ages. I've heard that Flutter is a UI toolkit, not a UI framework. What's the difference? It's the same fucking thing.
Different word.
Same different word. I think the point here, toolkit and framework, same difference. It's just a different synonym for the same thing. I think the concern about framework is to make sure that people don't expect it to do everything, right? As we said earlier, it doesn't go get GPS. It doesn't have drivers for a sound card. You know, these are all things that you go out of Flutter and Dart to go do with the operating system, right? However, what it does do and provide is phenomenal, and it sits in the right spot, I think. Anyway, I'm not going to bang on about it, but yeah, there we go. Roberto, how do I cancel HTTP requests when a user leaves the screen? I know Tio's got a cancellation token. Well, that's exactly it. So here's the thing. This is the same. This is the same with all software, okay? And that is, it doesn't strictly, like, you start something running and it has to, let's say, and you're reading, let's give a really simple scenario. We're going to forget about HTTP for a second, just come back. I want to read a 1 gigabyte file from my hard drive in my app. I'm going to read that file in small chunks, like 1 megabyte at a time. That's a huge chunk, but yeah, 1 megabyte at a time. That means I have to have 1,000 steps to read 1 gigabyte, because there's 1,000 megabytes in a gigabyte, rounded, but whatever. So this means if I read it in 1 big megabyte chunk, process that data, and then loop around to read the second megabyte and repeat, right? That's how I built my software, whatever it is. Each iteration of that loop, I can check, have I been cancelled? Have I been cancelled? Have I been cancelled? That is the trick. That is how all software is built, because it's very difficult to interrupt something as it's proceeding. Now, there is thread synchronization and all this other stuff, but I'm not going to go there right now. But the point here is when something's in an awaited state, it's waiting for something else to happen. Once it's finished, it can then check to see if it's been cancelled, and then it can end early, right? Or throw an exception or whatever it needs to do. And that's exactly how cancelable operation, which basically just wraps a future and lets the future carry on, and gives it this cancel token. It's up to the future to check to see, has it been cancelled in this it's an async package, cancel operation. If it's been cancelled, then it just ends early or throws an exception or does whatever it needs to do. And then the wrapper around that returns the cancel value instead. And off the top of my head, I'm assuming Dio's cancel token works with a very similar principle. And I'm sure there's plenty of examples of how to use cancel token in the Dio stuff, because Dio's got a lot of stuff in it for that. So
I also said in the chat that there's also a higher level way of doing something kind of like this with a bit of brute force. You can run something in an isolate and then kill the isolate to stop whatever it's doing. That's sort of bigger guns, but it does get the job done.
I'm gonna caveat that with an explanation that people don't realize from a lower level perspective here, and that is, I can start. Let's say my application starts running another application. I don't know what the application does. I didn't write the code for it. I start another application, and then at some point the user presses cancel. I need to go cancel the application. It doesn't provide a cancel mechanism, so I go process.kill its ID, and the operating system kills the process. What that does, it literally stops it from executing code and just shuts it down. It gets rid of all the memory that it's using, gets rid of all the files, it closes the files it has open, and it just goes away, right?
Yeah.
The problem with doing that is the application did not close down cleanly, right? Which meant it might have been halfway writing the middle of a data file, and now that file's corrupted because it's only half finished, right? And that's the kind of thing. If you start doing like an isolate and just saying isolate.exit and giving it the isolate handle or whatever, it will just go away. But if the isolate was in the middle of doing something, good luck, right? So it's always proper to have like a flag. So even when you're doing multi-threading, is to say set the quit flag and wait for it to exit, so that it exits gracefully, right? And you'll see this term gracefully is used. Graceful termination is you can go look it up. That's the name given to this scenario in programming. I've just opened up Dio, and we'll quickly just have a look here. If I click on API reference, I'm going to search for cancel token. Cancel method has a cancel token. There you go. So what does this do? Creates a cancel error, adds a stack trace true, and then it completes the original completer of with that value. You can cancel your request using a cancel token. One token can be shared with different requests. One token can be shared with different requests. That's nice. So you create a cancel token, you hand it over, and then you get to cancel it with whatever reason you want to. And then the idea is that thread or whatever has to check that it is cancelled, which I'm assuming Dio's library for HTTP does. That's it. Is exactly what I just said, basically.
It's magical.
That's it.
Look at the source code. It's in there.
It's been cancelled. Yeah, and then just read the source code, right? But yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
So the idea is you create a cancel token, then you hand it over. Once a cancel token has been cancelled, it cannot be uncancelled. It's used. So just FYI.
Definitely. Got one left here. It's for me. So I just finally revived my YouTube channel after a year of silence. Sorry about that, guys. And I did something I've been trying to do for a little while. I've been telling people about, and that's the idea of using run app twice in your main to be able to have like an animation going while you're doing all the rest of all your stuff. Yes, there are other more slightly complicated solutions to do this, like using feature builders and things like that. But I really like this solution because it's just so quick and easy and dirty and able to get done quickly. So obviously this Prashant is someone who saw that video. A lot of people did. Thank you, all for telling everybody. So it says it's making splash screens, but how it affects app performance? 0, because once your first run app is updated by the second run app, the first run app just goes away. It's not there anymore. It gets released the same way that you release any of the children of a widget that is now being rebuilt.
It replaces the root view with it replaces the root widget with So
good way to have that. And that answers the second half of that question. And I'll just paste real quickly the URL for this particular element of my Dart and Flutter stream. But I've been getting good comments on it too, which is really cool. There's this comment or this question was already answered in one of the comments. I answered it middle of the night last night. So yeah, a while back.
Right. I'm just going to quick look through, see if there's anything I've missed.
Yeah, I stopped flagging them half hour ago. So
I'm just going to take quickly. There's. I think we're okay. I'm gonna take that this whatever's there right now, and that's it. Quickly, right? So I just noticed that we got a couple of. Hey, look, we got Craig Lebens. Gosh, that's cool. I don't know what he's saying. Gosh, that's cool about. I bring him up on the stream. So thank you very much for joining us. James Johnson, good stuff, Simon. Yeah, no problem. So I don't know what this was. Wow, yeah, cool. It's always good to have
just a wow
constructive, really cool stuff back. So Danielle is checking your PubSpec dependencies can be important as well. That's I've lost the context. Probably is something we were talking about, but yeah, definitely. It's probably related to like the size of your executable. Just try and keep those dependencies down. Having like. You can get into a problem with dependency hell when you have so many dependencies. One depends on another one that depends on another one. Before you know, you've got really, really complex problems you're trying to solve. When the thing you're actually trying to do and use this package for is something simple that you didn't really need a package for. Just think about it. Okay, why Rx Start state management is not as popular as it is on Android native Java Kotlin development. Okay. So first of all, it is. RxStart is used all over. It's because we have streams built into the language, so we don't need a separate library to handle it, right? So streams, first of all, is done. If you want to use the Rx principles of like a behavior subject and a publish subject and all this kind of stuff, and all of the filter and mapping and switch map and all that kind of fun stuff, that's all provided by the RxStart package, and it is used, but it's not used in itself as a state management solution. It's used by the current state manager. So I believe Flutter Block uses it, and a bunch of the other ones. It's a fundamental thing. However, here's the other thing: the UI system on Flutter is a reactive UI system, right? And it's a declarative in the way that you define it. So meaning that you don't actually have to use Rx. So Rx came along as a way of solving some of those problems in the way and making sure that the UI reacts to the state of the application. And that's just naturally how Flutter wants to be. So there's no need to use Rx everywhere to solve that problem. So yeah, basically it's built in, so it's not a problem anymore.
Yeah.
When I run Flutter build APK for building APK, I got an error. Cannot get property something on null object. Any idea what it is? No. However, problem occur cannot get property on something. This is probably relating. So since you can probably, if you can run your app normally and it's only on your build, this is particularly on your Android build. And what you need to do is you can just, once you've done Flutter build like that, just go and try and build your Flutter app using the normal Android Studio tools. You can actually run what's called Gradle, which is the build system for Android, in a debug mode, and it will dump out all this logs of content. And when you get all this log of content coming out, that will then tell you at what point you'll see what happened before and where it got to say that problem occurred. And right at that point, you'll get a better idea as to what file, where this extra character is, or what's causing the problem, and you can debug it. But I suspect it's probably like a bug in your Gradle scripts in some fashion, like that only occurs when you're running a release mode build, for example. I also noticed you missed a hyphen before flavor equals dev, so hopefully you've got that in your two hyphens. Sorry, so it'd be dash flavor equals dev. So hopefully you've got that in your actual command. Otherwise, that could be your problem. Believe it or not, apps that require flavor, in Flutter, if you don't specify the flavor, you'll get random errors like this from Gradle on Android. It's just the way it works. So yeah, make sure you add the correct parameter for flavor. That could also be causing you a problem. Dash flavor equals dev. How to embed Unity game in Flutter app and fetch scores of Unity game in Flutter app. Well, use the Unity plugin. That's all I'd say. I mean, like you said, fetch scores. We'll do a HTTP request and then send the data using the Unity package over to the Unity code and have it listen for the changes. I literally just Unity 2 years old. That's probably not it.
001.
Flutter Unity widget. There you go. 23
there we
days
go.
ago. There you go.
Yeah.
And I'm sure it's probably got a way of, you build your Unity app, you fire it across, and then normally, I'm going to say normally because I don't know off the top of my head, somewhere down here, there'd be a way of creating code and interacting with that code in and out of your Flutter widget. Here you go, demo, blah, 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 on Unity created. There's probably a way of interacting with it. I don't know. We put some widgets on top or something. Widget controller. There you are. Post message right there. Set speed. So in Flutter, you go set speed. So you can go fetch from the network your scores, and then you do widget controller post message score your list of scores or something, and then in your Unity code you'll be able to receive that event or that message and react to it in whatever way you need to. So yeah, just read the docs and then you'll get that. There you go on Unity message received. Whatever. I don't need.
There's a lot of right parens in that code. Did you see that the stack of right parens coming down?
I might have scrolled past it, but yeah, like that
factoring. No, not that one. Maybe that one. Yeah, look at that. That.
To be honest, I'm okay with this. I'm okay with this because in the editor it tells you it adds a comment to the end of each one of these as to which one you're closing.
Sure.
What I really dislike is when there's no commas. And this at least tells me how level deep I am, and then inside an editor you get like a little line that tells you sort of you can block off your UI. When there's no commas, it really does throw you off. I think.
That's ugly.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right. Which is better, DO or HTTP? You want to answer that one?
I'm just going to say DO uses HTTP, so it's just a lower level interface. I mean, HTTP comes shipped with the box, so you don't have to install some aftermarket bolt-ons like DO is. But it gives you access to low level stuff, but it will do everything DO does because DO is using it. There's no way DO can do anything except use that.
The built-in .io package has HTTP built into it, right? So if I search for HTTP client, whatever, you can go and build this. Now, this is a very low-level way of doing things, right? But here's the key. HTTP provides low-level HTTP functionality. We recommend you use with developer-friendly package HTTP. There's a separate package and pub called HTTP written by the Dart team. And this provides a nicer infrastructure like HTTP post with the URL, and it's a lot simpler. This is what I would recommend using. You don't normally need to go the other route unless you're doing more advanced low-level things. DO is built, I don't believe DO is built on top of this. I believe DO is built on the underlying framework, which is part of Dart. Just to be clear.
And also the thing about package HTTP is provides a universal interface, whether you're running as a XHR on a web app or running in browser or running not browser,
that's
but
really
running
nice,
in
so basically you can
VMs.
use I don't actually know if DO supports web in any way, if it has that kind of thing layer on top, but
haven't looked.
I know the HTTP package has one interface and you use it and it will swap out the underlying mechanism if it's .io or .web .html based on which one.
Right. So. Works with both. Social interface. Really nice that way. Yep.
So let me see if I can find it. I thought I had it to hand and then I've lost it.
Scott has it. Let's get Scott back.
I know, literally, I had it to one side so I could. I've lost it. I had it here. Hang on.
There's one of the URLs in one of our.
We get this pretty often, and there's I mean, I'm gonna find it. Maybe I'm not gonna find it. Don't. Hang on. I found. Hang on. He's given me every. Oh, here we are. There we go. Found it.
Yeah.
The highly subjective roadmap to learn Flutter, and that's the link. And I'll post that right now in the chat for everyone.
Cool. Good job.
Yeah. So basically, this is. I think this is a G. I think it's GD that came up with this whole thing, and it's the highly subjective Flutter roadmap, and this kind of gives you guides and on how sort of deep learning and what things you should follow on from next. So you kind of do them in an order, and lots and lots of links and content to take you further in your learning. So that's where I would recommend you go.
Indeed.
Well, I think that's it. I think we got to the end.
I got nothing.
No, I think that's it. I think we did it. Yay!
Yes. Yay!
So, thank you everyone for joining us. Another week. We're trying to keep this short. I mean, 1 hour 45, whatever. But another.
And please subscribe to my channel. There will be. I have 77 more ideas still in the queue, so I'm working on them as fast as I can now.
I will mention that we'll be back next week with guests, and we'll be announcing stuff on Twitter. So make sure you follow @FlutterComm, COMM, which is the Flutter community YouTube account for notifications. And I guess we'll see you next time. Bye for now.
Bye. Goodbye.
Thanks.